The paper trembled in my hands. I'd read the laboratory results 3 times already, but my brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. The kitchen suddenly felt too small, the walls pressing in as I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself. Gamma-hydroxybutyrate, GHB, the date rape drug. My grandson Ethan had been drinking this. For 2 weeks, he'd been drinking this. Let me back up, because I need you to understand how we got here. How a routine summer visit turned into the most terrifying discovery of my life. Ethan came to stay with me in mid-June, like he did every summer since his parents divorced. He's 19 now, finished his freshman year at Ohio State, and I'd been looking forward to our time together. My little 2-bedroom house in the suburbs had always been his safe place growing up, and even now, he'd choose a summer with his grandma over staying in that tense atmosphere between his mom and dad. The first week was perfect. We fell into our old routine. I'd make breakfast while he slept in. We'd spend afternoons watching old movies or working in the garden, and evenings he'd help me with dinner before heading out to reconnect with high school friends. Normal, easy, the way it should be. Then Sophie showed up. He met her at a coffee shop downtown during his second week here. She was a barista there, just graduated from community college, 22 years old with those Instagram-perfect features and a smile that could sell anything. Ethan came home that first day absolutely smitten, talking nonstop about this girl who liked the same bands he did, who laughed at his jokes, who thought his engineering major was so impressive. I was happy for him. Of course I was. Young love, summer romance, all that sweetness. Even when he started seeing her almost daily, I didn't worry. He was 19. This was what 19-year-olds did. But then the exhaustion started. After their third date, Ethan came home at 9 p.m. and went straight to bed. Not unusual for a teenager, right? Except he'd texted me at 7 saying they were just getting dinner. 2 hours, and he was so wiped out he could barely make it up the stairs. "Just tired, Grandma," he mumbled when I asked. We walked a lot downtown. The next time they went out, same thing. He'd be gone for a few hours, come home looking pale and drained, and sleep for 12 hours straight. By the 4th time, I noticed something else. He'd check his wallet. Confused. "Did I spend $60 last night?" he asked me one morning, staring at his banking app. "I thought we just got ice cream." "Maybe you're not keeping track," I suggested, but something in my chest tightened. The 5th time they went out, I stayed up waiting. He came home at 10:30, and I watched from the hallway as he fumbled with his keys, dropped them twice, finally got the door open. His eyes were glassy, unfocused. He saw me and smiled this loose, sloppy smile that wasn't like him at all. "Hey, Graham," he slurred slightly. "Good night. Sophie's. She's so great." He weaved past me toward the stairs, one hand on the wall for balance. I followed him up, heart pounding. "Ethan, honey, how much did you drink tonight?" He turned, looking genuinely confused. "Drink? I didn't. We just had dinner. And those energy drinks she brings. The special imported ones from her friend's store. Energy drinks. Every date." That's when the pieces started clicking together in a way that made my stomach turn. "These energy drinks," I kept my voice casual. "Does Sophie always bring them?" "Yeah, she's so thoughtful." He sat on his bed, swaying slightly. "Says they're better than American ones. More natural. They taste kinda weird, but I don't want to be rude, you know?" I helped him into bed, fully clothed, pulled off his shoes, covered him with a blanket. Then I went downstairs and didn't sleep for the rest of the night. Something was very, very wrong. The next morning, I waited until Ethan left for the gym before I went into his room. I felt guilty. Sneaking through my grandson's things, invading his privacy, but that image of him stumbling through the door, confused about his missing money, barely able to stand. I had to know. His backpack was on the floor by his desk. I unzipped it slowly, hands shaking a little. Textbooks, his laptop, headphones, his wallet. And there, in the side pocket, 3 small bottles. They looked like those fancy European soda bottles you'd find in specialty stores. The labels were in what looked like Japanese or Korean, with some English words, energy boost and natural formula. One was empty. One was half full. One was unopened. I took the half-full bottle. My friend Margaret, she's been a pharmacist for 35 years. We'd been playing bridge together every Thursday for the last decade. If anyone would know what to do, it was Margaret. I showed up at her house before she'd even finished her morning coffee. "Linda, what's wrong?" She could see it on my face, I'm sure. I must have looked frantic. I told her everything. The exhaustion, the confusion, the memory gaps, the missing money. I showed her the bottle. Margaret's expression changed as I talked, going from concerned to serious to deeply alarmed. She took the bottle from me, examined it carefully, unscrewed the cap, and sniffed it. "Don't drink that," she said sharply. "Linda, this doesn't smell right. Energy drinks should smell like, well, energy drinks. Artificial sweeteners, taurine, that chemical tang. This smells off, almost sweet, but wrong. What do you think it is?" "I think," she said carefully, "that you need to get this tested. Today, right now." She had a friend at a private lab who owed her a favor. She made a call, and within 2 hours, we were handing over that bottle to a toxicologist who promised results by end of day. "If this is what I think it is," Margaret said as we left the lab, "you need to be prepared. This is serious, Linda. This is police-level serious." We went back to her house to wait. I couldn't go home, couldn't face Ethan until I knew. Margaret made tea I didn't drink. We sat in her living room, and I watched the clock. At 4:30, her phone rang. She put it on speaker. "Margaret, it's Tom. The sample you brought in." The toxicologist's voice was grim. "It tested positive for GHB, gamma-hydroxybutyrate. Concentration is about 1,500 milligrams per 8-ounce bottle. That's enough to heavily sedate someone, maybe cause amnesia. This is a date rape drug, Margaret." The room spun. Margaret grabbed my hand, steadying me. "You're sure?" she asked. "Completely. Someone mixed this deliberately. The energy drink is real, but it's been spiked, heavily. Anyone drinking this would experience exactly what you described. Fatigue, memory loss, impaired judgment, lowered inhibitions. And they'd have no idea why. I must have made some sound, because suddenly Margaret was there, arm around my shoulders. "Linda, you need to call the police," Tom continued through the phone. "And you need to keep that young man away from whoever gave him this. This is assault. This is attempted, well, multiple crimes." After we hung up, Margaret drove me home. I couldn't drive. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, and my mind was racing too fast. Ethan was my grandson. My baby's baby. Someone had been drugging him. For what? Why? The money. The missing money each time. "Oh, God." "You need to talk to him," Margaret said as she pulled into my driveway. "Tell him what we found, then call the police." Ethan's car was in the driveway. He was home. I walked in, and he was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, smiling at something. "Hey, Graham! Sophie wants to know if I can come over tonight. Her brother's making dinner, wants to meet me officially. That's good, right? Meeting the family?" Her brother. "Ethan, honey, I need you to put the phone down. We need to talk." Something in my voice must have scared him because he immediately sat up straight, phone forgotten. I told him everything. The bottle, the test, the results. I watched his face go from confused to disbelieving to horrified. "No," he kept saying. "No, that's not. Sophie wouldn't. She's been so nice, so sweet. Why would she? I don't know, sweetheart. But the test doesn't lie." He was quiet for a long moment. And then I saw it. The realization dawning. "The money," he whispered. "Every time I saw her, money would be missing. I thought I was just forgetting, but I wasn't spending it. Someone was, while I was." His face went white. "Grandma, was she? Did she?" "I don't know what she did or why," I said firmly. "But we're calling the police right now." "Wait!" He stood up suddenly. "Her brother. She said he wanted to meet me tonight. What if he's involved? Then we definitely need the police." But Ethan was pulling up something on his phone, hands shaking. Look at this." He showed me Sophie's Instagram, lots of photos of her, usual young woman stuff. But then he scrolled to an older post from 3 months ago. A photo of her with a young man, mid-20s, arm around her shoulders. The caption, "Helping my brother get back on his feet, family first." "I asked about him once," Ethan said. "She said he'd had some money troubles, lost his job, got into debt. She said she was helping him get sorted. Money troubles, debt, a desperate person's motivation. He's using her, I said slowly. Or they're working together. Ethan, you have a trust fund from your dad, don't you? The one that becomes accessible when you turn 21? He nodded, not understanding yet. How much? $300,000. There it was. The motive. Not just the $60 or $80 from his wallet each time. They were playing the long game, building trust, building a relationship, getting him attached to Sophie. And once he was completely under their control, they'd get you to give them access, I finished. Or transfer money. While you were drugged, confused. You wouldn't even remember agreeing to it. Ethan looked like he might be sick. I told her about the trust fund. On our second date, I thought. I was just talking about my future plans. She seemed so interested. Of course she did. We call the police, I said. Right now. But Ethan grabbed my arm. Wait. If we call now, they'll just deny everything. It'll be he said, she said. They'll get rid of any evidence. Grandma, what if we prove it first? I should have said no. I should have called the police immediately. But I looked at my grandson's face, saw the betrayal and hurt and anger there, and I understood. He needed this, needed to know for sure, needed to see it with his own eyes. What are you thinking? I asked carefully. Tonight. She wants me to come to her brother's place for dinner. What if I go? But what if you follow me? With your phone recording or something. We can see what they try to do. Absolutely not. Ethan, if they drugged you again, I won't drink anything. I'll be careful. Please, Grandma. I need to know if she really did this to me. It was the plea in his voice that broke me. This was his first serious relationship, and it had been a trap. A cruel, calculated trap. He needed closure, needed proof, needed something to make sense of this nightmare. Okay, I heard myself say. But we do this carefully. We do this smart, and at the first sign of real danger, we call 911. We spent the next 2 hours planning. Ethan would go to dinner. He'd wear his smartwatch, which I didn't even know he could do this with, but apparently you could set it to record audio. I would park down the street with my phone ready to call police. He'd text me the address, and I'd keep the line open to Margaret, who insisted on being part of this, who said her nephew was a police officer and she'd have him on standby. At 7 p.m., Ethan texted me an address, a small house in a rundown neighborhood about 20 minutes away. I drove there, parked 3 houses down where I could see the front door but wasn't obvious. Margaret called me. Danny's 10 minutes away, she said. Her nephew, the cop. He's off duty, but he'll come if you need him. Linda, please be careful. At 7:15, I watched Ethan walk up to the house and knock. Sophie answered, all smiles, hugged him, led him inside. Then I waited. At 7:40, my phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. She offered me a drink. Same bottle style. I said I was feeling sick. She seems annoyed. 7:50, brother just got here. He's pushing me to have some of the special energy drink. Says it'll help my stomach. They're both being really insistent. 8 o'clock. Grandma, I heard them in the kitchen. He's saying, just get him to drink it, and she's saying, he's being difficult. I think they know something's wrong. 8:10. They're backing off, making dinner, acting normal. But I saw the brother put one of those bottles in his jacket pocket, like he's hiding the evidence. 8:20. Brother just asked me about my investment plans. Specifically about money I'll have access to soon. This is real. They're really doing this. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely text back. I called Margaret. Danny's here, she said. We're coming to you. At 8:35, a police car pulled up quietly behind mine. No lights, no sirens. A young officer, Danny, came to my window. Ma'am, Margaret explained the situation. Your grandson's inside? I nodded, showed him the texts. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to knock on that door, say I'm following up on a neighborhood complaint, just routine. While I'm talking to them, you call your grandson and tell him to come outside. We'll go from there. It happened fast after that. Danny approached the house. I called Ethan. I heard knocking on the video call, heard Sophie's voice answering the door, heard Ethan say loudly, "Oh, That's my grandmother. I should take this." He walked out while Sophie and her brother were distracted by Danny at the door. As soon as Ethan was on the sidewalk, I got out of my car. "Officer," Ethan called out. "I need to report a crime." Sophie's face, visible from the doorway, went sheet white. Ethan told Danny everything while Sophie and her brother stood there. He showed him the texts. I came forward with the lab results from Tom. Danny's expression grew darker with each piece of evidence. "I'm going to need you both to come down to the station," Danny said to Sophie and her brother. "And I'm going to need those bottles you have inside." "We don't have any bottles," the brother said quickly. Too quickly. "Sir, I can get a warrant. Or you can cooperate now." The brother made a run for it. Actually bolted back into the house. Danny was on his radio immediately, calling for backup. Within minutes, 3 more patrol cars arrived. They found 12 bottles in the kitchen, all the same type, all filled with what would later be confirmed as GHB-laced energy drinks. They found a notebook with Ethan's name, his birth date, and the words, "Trust Fund minus $300K, accessible at 21. They found text messages between Sophie and her brother planning the whole thing. How they'd target rich college kids, build trust, drug them, get access to their money. Ethan wasn't even their first target. There were 3 other names in that notebook. 3 other young men who probably had no idea what had happened to them. Sophie cried and claimed her brother made her do it. Her brother claimed Sophie was the mastermind. Neither story held up against the evidence. At the police station, giving our statements, Ethan sat next to me and held my hand like he used to when he was little. "I really liked her, Grandma," he said quietly. "I thought she liked me too." "I know, sweetheart. I know." The detective handling the case, a woman named Detective Morrison, sat down across from us. "You did good work," she said. "Both of you. That recording from the smartwatch, the lab test, the planning. This is going to be an airtight case. But Ethan, I need you to understand something. What they did to you, that's assault. That's a serious felony. You're a victim here." Ethan nodded, but I could see the shame in his face, the embarrassment, the feeling that he should have known, should have seen it coming. "Hey," I squeezed his hand. "You trusted someone. That's not a character flaw. That's being human. What they did, that's on them. Not you." The case went to trial 4 months later. Sophie and her brother both pleaded guilty in the end, faced with overwhelming evidence. She got 8 years. He got 12. Detective Morrison told us they'd identified 2 other victims who came forward after the arrest was publicized. Ethan went back to Ohio State in the fall. He's more cautious now, slower to trust. It breaks my heart a little. But he's also stronger. He knows his worth. Knows what real care looks like versus manipulation. He still comes to stay with me every summer. We don't talk about that June very often. But sometimes, when we're working in the garden or watching our old movies, he'll lean over and say, "Thanks for believing me, Graham. Thanks for protecting me." And I'll hug him tight and think about how close we came. How if he hadn't mentioned those energy drinks? If I hadn't listened to that voice in my gut that said something's wrong? If Margaret hadn't known what to do? If we hadn't been brave enough to set that trap? The bottles are long gone, destroyed as evidence after the trial. But I still can't look at energy drinks in stores without feeling sick. I still check in with Ethan maybe a bit too often, asking if he's okay, if he's being safe, if anyone's treating him wrong. "I'm okay, Grandma," he always says. "I promise. I'm okay." And because I protected him when it mattered most, because I caught it before they could destroy his life, I believe him. That's what family does. We protect each other. We listen when something feels wrong. We act, even when we're scared. And we never, ever ignore our instincts about the people who claim to care about those we love. Did you like the story? If so, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had a gut feeling that something wasn't right? Sometimes those instincts save lives. Until next time, stay safe, trust your gut, and protect the people you love.